Ah, yes. Halloween Ends, the final chapter of the original Michael Myers trilogy. Basically, this could be Michael Myers' end in the entire series, and pretty well done. Not gonna lie, the opening here is actually really cool too. I mean, right there in the corner. And I feel like Jamie Lee Curtis and all of the other returning characters, including a couple of the original Halloween actors, really do their job well. I also love how they do these pumpkins and stuff. They bring back the guy who's been playing the shape. Basically, that's Michael Myers' character. But what's also cool about this is at one point in the film you will actually see the original character actor who played Michael Myers, which in this case is Nick Castle, who's both an actor and a director. And he actually appears as this dude with all this stuff and opens up like, see anything you like? They So, where do I even begin with this movie? Mainly because A, I don't want to spoil how that beginning begins, like at all. And, you know, I don't want to spoil the entire film. Now, I do like it does go back to Halloween, the original Halloween, for some stock footage and stuff, setting up Haddonfield, and of course, Laurie and Michael. And it begins to tell like a little backstory here first. Then it starts to go into more, modern stuff with the more recent events. But let's be fair, that's pretty serious. Now, is this my favorite one out of these three redone Halloween movies? The answer is no. I actually like just straight Halloween the best out of these three. Now, Halloween Kills was all right. It was pretty cool. It had its moments where it really kicked a lot of butt. But this one, it's just because it ends. But I will admit, at the other end, they they finally start to do something unique and interesting. One of the big problems, and well, actually, if I tell this, it's not going to spoil the entire movie, even the ending. But let's just say that there is a character who pops up in the beginning of the film before the title sequence and the stuff I didn't show to spoil it and what happens. And he's basically accused of something. He does get off, but he's like the pariah of the town. He's the new Michael Myers for all intents and purposes. And he's trying to basically live with what the town thinks of him, what he's done himself, and also just trying to move on with his life. At the same time, stuff just keeps happening. It's like Michael, because he's still alive and he's still out there, has become like an infection, and people are just freaking out every Halloween. This takes place about 2 or 3 years after the second Halloween movie. So some time has passed. And when we eventually find Michael, he finds this guy and they kind of, in a weird way, bond. While the dude is trying to regain what's left of his humanity, Michael is just kind of almost convalescing until this event. He's like still trying to recover from Halloween Kills. And if you've seen the end of that movie, you'll know what I mean. It's like, damn, how the hell are you still alive, boy? Um, and at the same time, you see two separate ways these two guys are reacting. And eventually something happens to the dude and he starts to fall under Michael's spell or whatever the hell you want to call it, or like the same effect, and he starts to lose himself completely. And you eventually have two killers. You have the old school one who is like almost nigh unstoppable, but he can be hurt. We do know that. And you have this new boy, and you have like the teacher and the student. And that kind of relationship is unique. You have someone actually talking with Michael, not dying by Michael's hand. And Michael's almost like training them, like accepting that they're the next person for this mantle and stuff. And it makes for one hell of a storyline and plot. It also means there might be times where it could be one killer or the other. You don't know which one's which. And eventually, everything leads back to Lori, unfortunately. What's also funny is that Lori is trying to move on and stuff as well as her granddaughter. They're trying to survive. They're trying to be who they are. They're trying to accept it. Even one of the other survivors from the original Halloween movie, Ann Kills, is also trying to move on. And you can just see how they're doing stuff. And it makes great. And Jamie Lee Curtis really goes like just balls to the walls, badass bitch in this movie, in my opinion. And it works very well. And you also see her character having to deal with these effects too. She's a survivor, but people are starting to blame her for an occasional thing like, hey, you should have been able to kill the dude or you shouldn't have angered him and stuff. It's like, she didn't even do that. If you actually watch the first movie and you really watch it, she was not responsible for bringing Michael to her house. In fact, he probably wouldn't have gone there that night. She probably would have had her family, been safe, and now it's doing that. I was like, Universal does this way too soon. Well, I'm trying to explain stuff. As you can see there, she's literally at one point she'd become like the most dangerous human being on the planet. And to be fair, when you're dealing with the actual guy who has taken an entire six-shot revolver of high caliber rounds and walked away, I'd be worried too. And you see her both trying to move on, and then every once in a while, people are like, "Hey, this is your fault." It's like she didn't do shit. If anything, she's probably the biggest victim of them all, and you people are fucking with her. I mean, and people they are sometimes just straight out fucking with her. Or you have people looking at her and going, "Oh, it's a nutcase. Hey, she's still alive. Would you survive in that? Oh, that's right. You're a teenager. You're prime hunting target for Mr. Myers." Uh, so you got that happen. Now that does make a good dynamic. You have what's happening to the people. You have Lori and her family trying to adjust. You have this other character who at one point is just trying to save himself from what he's becoming. You have Michael recovering. You have the town basically trying to restore. Now, the thing is, this is the last movie. It's going to end. I'm not going to tell you how. I'm not going to tell you what's going to happen. And remember, kind of like what they said in Scream 3, it's the end of a trilogy. You don't know what's going to happen. you know, they could all live, they could all die. You just don't know. But there's a lot of returning characters from both 1 and 2, Halloween and Halloween Kills, in this movie. There's also good musical picks. In fact, one of the picks in this is actually Don't Fear the Reaper. That's actually from the original Halloween. Carpenter is involved in this movie too. There is an actual credit for him, which is cool. And other stuff. And we saw in some of the other films too, there was also, not surprisingly, there was a lot of homages to the other Halloween movies, which I love. And I love that they actually did do a very good job of showing just how messed up Michael was and some of the other characters. It's a great movie in that regard. Maybe it's not my favorite, but I will give it when it gets into those certain points when it starts to get really interesting. That's when the movie becomes good. Otherwise, I was like, in like the beginning, because it's just not, But once you actually start to explore the duality of humanity and a person who's slowly being dragged into Michael's world, that really makes for a better film than I would have thought. And it works so well in that regard. Again, after a certain point, I can't talk about the movie anymore because I will spoil what the hell happens at this ending. Both because, as a kill fan of Michael Myers, that's kind of a big deal, and also exactly what's going on. Well, let's just say that there's a lot of characters, and at the end of the film, who lives and who dies, and also what happens to them afterwards becomes a major point. Basically, after this film, it does end. Now, do I think this is the end of the Halloween franchise completely? No. There's stuff they could do. They could create new characters. And as we saw in this one, it was possible Michael was going to spread like a disease. Anything is possible. And that's what makes these films cool. Like and subscribe, hit the bell for notification, and happy Halloween. Good trick or treating, by the way.